of the items that can help us compare when we are leading or when we are managing. We looked at quite a number. I just want to look at a few more. That a leader appeals to the heart, a manager appeals to the head. What that means is that for somebody to follow you, the decision is a heart matter. You talk to your person. That's why we emphasize the earlier statement we had about people knowing you care about them. Then they'll give you their heart. Head, you just want the guy to understand and go on with it. That's the manager. And that's something likely to be true. So it means that if you want to be a leader, you must go beyond the head. In terms of how you work, the manager is just cool and controlled. But in terms of the leadership, you show passion in the things you are talking about. In terms of culture, and the manager enacts it. In other words, this is the way you do things here. But the leader shapes it. In other words, he is discussing and gets people to agree, and therefore creating a kind of a culture in the team. In terms of Zionism, he is a proactive person, and the manager is a reactive person. By the way, reactive is not a bad word. Reactive means that you learn from your mistakes and your successes, and therefore design today on the basis of what you learned. But a leader goes beyond that. He doesn't just rely on the experience this far. He looks in the future and thinks what can go well, what can go bad, then tries to enact things that will prevent things going bad tomorrow. He does not want to learn from failure. He wants to prevent the failure. That's a leader. He is proactive. He thinks ahead. And you'll be surprised how reactive we are, to go back to my example of parenting. The other day, somebody was asked to go to talk to a PTA meeting, a parents' meeting in a school. Ask the parents, when you are young, did your father beat you? The parents said never. Oh, it was terrible. Oh, the way you were beaten. Second question, do you beat your children? They said, oh yes, we beat them. Third question, did the beating of your father help you? Oh, never. We just learned other ways of trying to escape the beating. Question, how come you are continuing to do what your father did and it did not work in you? That's what we mean. So those people are not even reactive. Such parents are not reactive. They are unchanging. There are 3 levels. You can be proactive, reactive, or unchanging. You don't learn from the past. Of course, that's a terrible, and they are there. They are terrible people. You go to a restaurant, they give you food that causes you some stomach trouble. Tomorrow you are back there. Why? It's the nearest to my office. That means you are not learning anything from your experience. So a manager is not that level. A manager analyzes what is happening and makes decisions on the basis of that analysis. But a leader looks into the future. What is likely to change in the future? What are likely to be the new challenges, the new opportunities of the future, the new threats of the future? Then makes today's decision in order to utilize the opportunities and avoid the threats. In terms of persuasion, a manager tells people, you do this. And of course, there are consequences if you don't do it. But a leader does not tell. He sells until he has a buy-in from the staff. So it will make the communication is much easier, faster for the manager than for the leader. Why they do all this is because the style of the leader is transformational. Transformational means you are promising your group to move from where they are now into a better future. And you have convinced them that the future is good. You have sold to them the future is good. there will be transformation. But the manager is transactional. Do this and I did scratch my back and I scratch your back. Is his method and his style. And I think that will be something we need to think about, whether that is what we are doing or not. Is that the way we handle our issues? Are we doing it as managers or as leaders? In terms of exchange, the manager promises money for work done, but the leader promises a better future, an excitement that makes the person come to work excited about the things they are trying to do. What does the leader like? Striving. He is ready to put in the extra time, going the extra mile, like we said earlier. Manager is after action. What does leader want? Achievement. What does the manager want? Results. This is what you are to achieve. The results. But the leader looks long term. Risk. We say that the leader is a risk taker, but the manager tries to avoid risks. In terms of rules, the leader sometimes knows the only way of progressing is to break certain rules that have been there. He looks at the future and realizes this rule will not work. Whereas the manager is busy making and ensuring rules are kept. And those are things that you have to ask yourself whether that is something you are doing or not. In terms of conflict, the manager avoids any conflict. But the leader, by the nature of the things he's introducing, they'll cause conflict. But he knows you can use the conflict to get better performance. He knows how to sort it out. In terms of direction, he is always thinking of new ways, new roads, if he's a leader. But if he's a manager, he knows, he understands the road pattern, the current ways of doing things. In terms of truth, the leader is always seeking what is the true position. But the manager has already established it. In terms of concern, the leader goes for what is right. What is right in this situation? But the manager is interested in being right. He wants to do the things that will make him look right. But the leader is not interested in just doing the things in a right way. He is interested in, are they right themselves? In terms of credit, a leader is generous with giving credit. But in manager, he is the one who will get the credit for managing well. And in terms of blame, the leader will take blame. He doesn't avoid taking blame. My manager blames his subordinates. Of course, not everything is true of everybody, because like you are saying, sometimes you are playing the role of manager, but sometimes you are playing the role of leader, but you are the same guy, and that can cause confusion. So we are not suggesting that you take one and not the other. It will be important that all of them are things that you are taking seriously. Is there somebody with a question on that first session? Because we finished it without giving opportunity for question. I'll assume then there's no question and go on to our last session. We don't have as much time, but to be important. But I would really have given you a chance. Anybody? I'm trying to check in the chat box whether there is a question. Okay. I can see somebody has commented about um, a leader breaks the rules. But remember, he is the same one who accepts the blame. If you take the rules and you get yourself fired, you should not be regretting. You know you took the risk, and that's why you are where you are. But that you can't be a leader if you're not willing to take risks in going in new directions, so that you can pull the organization from where it is to the better place that you want to take it. Anybody else with a comment or a question? Okay, I'll assume I've given you opportunity, because there's no learning without question time. Question time is critical, because you can say something and it's not understood the way you intended it. If you don't give time for question, people will go with the wrong message. So I think it will be important that we allow questions. But let me try to run quickly through this, and then allow question, and you can ask question and then one of the three sessions. Why leaders fail. I'll try to look at what is effective leadership, because that's successful leadership, before we can talk about the old one. Then we'll do an exercise, and then we'll look at leadership failure as inability to help team reach the goal effectively and efficiently. Then there's a guy called Napoleon Hill, and he gives a list of that contribute to failure in organizations, and we'll look at it. Then you'll do exercise 2, and then finally look at some common mistakes of business leaders and entrepreneurs, and some signs that an organization is actually being led wrongly. That will help. What is effective leadership? Remember, leadership is the art of motivating a group of people to act towards achieving a common goal. And I'm just repeating, it is influencing people, motivating them to a common goal, a goal they themselves accept and the leader accepts. So it is not using people to meet your personal goals. It is working with people to meet our common goal. That's what leadership is all about. In a business setting, this can mean directing workers and colleagues with a strategy to meet the company's needs. The assumption is that if you get employed in the company, you are interested in the company's success. While leadership isn't intrinsically linked to profit, I have to agree, your parents are leaders, but they are not looking for profit. Those who are viewed as effective leaders, successful leaders, high-performance leaders in corporate context are those who increase their company's bottom line. So you can't tell me you are a leader of a business organization, and you call yourself a leader, but using the balance card, you have not been leading in increasing customer satisfaction, leading in making profit. All of that has to be what we are calling leadership. While there are people who seem to be naturally endowed with more leadership abilities than others, I think we need to agree right up front that anyone can learn to become a better leader by improving the skills he has a gap for. So that's why we are in this workshop, because we believe leaders are made and born. Some are born, others are made, but in the end, even the born ones are made. You know, the traits of a good business leader are cool-headed. Somebody who is very excited by emotional things continuously will end up making wrong decisions. So to be to be a successful leader, not a failure, you need to be a cool-headed person. I've also emphasized in our workshop the fact that he must be far-seeing, not somebody short-sighted or reactive. We want somebody proactive, a visionary. We also want somebody as risk-taker who is courageous. But we have emphasized throughout the importance of communication and ability to inspire. Remember, leadership is a winning combination of these traits we are listing, but also ability to think and act as a leader, not just be cool-headed leading. We now do the first exercise, and I want you to help me in learning this issue of failure. Give an example of leader you know that you regard as a failure and why you call him a failure. What's the evidence that he actually failed? But as a control experiment, give an example of a leader you regard as a success and why, and give us the evidence. The leader can be your mother, can be your headmaster, can be your boss, can be... All you're saying is you followed him or you knew people who followed him. Back to the chat box. But you're also free to unmute and talk. You're allowed to mention anybody except yourself. Connie Tengo, sema kitu.
I'm thinking about this leader.
You are trying to select out of the many?
Yes.
Okay. So, Maurice, are you trying to say an example of a failed leader is Trump?
Yes, Trump failed.
Did he? Are you aware that he got the biggest number of votes of any president in the history of America other than Biden?
Yes, and I think he was unable to handle that.
But are you aware that is how you measure political success? Is how many people voted for you. And his votes were the highest number in the history of America, other than Biden, who beat him by very few votes. Why is he so popular with Americans? So we in Africa may regard him as a failure, but half of America regards him as their greatest success. You see how difficult it is to talk about a failed one. You can say, I don't like him, but you have difficulty saying he has failed when he has so many voters.
Could I ask a question?
Go ahead, Irene.
Because as you say that, then I've remembered my question throughout this session is, when it comes to leadership, there's that debate between performance currency and relationship currency. Just as Mambura had asked, the balance between the performance, how you manage performance,
and stakeholder relations.
Yeah, and stakeholder relations. So sometimes I find leadership debatable because it's about that charismatic aspect of the individual. They might not really have been a performer, but they were liked. You know, that opinion pool is higher than the results that they were actually able to produce as a leader. So maybe speak a bit about that, you know, actual tangible results while you're in leadership of a certain position versus being liked by your followers.
Thank you, Irene. I think I have emphasized There is a difference. There are some people who are sold to the task. I'm a success. Why? Look at what I achieved. Another one is fully sold to getting people happy. Look, everybody likes me. None of them is a leader. Because if you achieve the task at the expense of relationship, you only achieve them short term. That's why the idea about a balanced scorecard is so critical. Because a balanced scorecard, your profit can go up. That equals so many marks. But then you must earn equal marks on learning and growth, developing people, making people happy, and earn equally on pleasing your customer, the customer satisfaction index. So we only call you a success, an achiever, if you have a balanced scorecard. So if, for example, you only achieve in one way and not another, you are not an achiever. You must aim at both, not one without the other. But then, of course, what matters, Irene, is who is measuring, who is determining. If the people who support you will ignore your achievement, but the board will not be happy that you are liked. Shareholders want profit. You will still be a failure. But if you achieve, what will happen is that the board will be happy with you in the short term because the shareholders can get dividends. But the following year, customers have run away, staff have run away, you have no organization. So you are actually a failure. So a good board will not just be pleased with your net profit improvement. They also want to know whether the organization is good for tomorrow. Irene, have I communicated?
You have. I think then my comment would be, in an organization, given that different individuals apply different leadership styles, for some the value in the setting of an organization, it should be that through the HR office, performance is rewarded against a certain set. Then given an individual's leadership style, some favor relationship building and stakeholder management. And that brings about the aspect of it looking like it's favoritism. Because one team could reward their staff based on performance, another team rewards their staff based on relationships, which brings about the aspect of why are they being rewarded in a certain way and not us. So it's a tricky balance, really.
My hope is that one organization will have the same PMS, performance management system. You can't have two. You will split the organization. It will not achieve its overall thing. So you need, number one, you must have the same performance management system in terms of principles. Number two, you must not award one without the other. That's why you can see me keeping emphasizing the importance. For example, you have a marketing guy and he is bringing you all customers in a hurry. But when you ask the customer, they're unhappy with him. That year, he will give you numbers. The following year, you have lost the customers. So we need to measure the guy not just by the volume of sales he got, but the kind of relationship that he has. And if you are to call him an achiever, it must be both criteria. So Irene, it will be very unfortunate if one team is measuring like ability, the other one is achieving achievement of the task. Both of them must change and measure, have a balanced scorecard. In other words, what score is for like ability, what score is for achievement, what's the average? And the one with the better average is the one we call an achiever. So I agree with you, Irene, there would be a serious problem if that was what is happening. Amin Dada failed. Okay, evidence? Remember, if you answer the question, you must give evidence. That's what the question asks. Sonko failed. Bob Collymore succeeded. Evidence? leader raised terror of. Today we speak of his influence of lives of billions on earth. Oh, this is who? Esther, who are you talking about?
I'm talking about Jesus written in the next chart.
Oh, Jesus raised her of. Today we speak of his influence. I apologize, Esther. I had not read the bottom. Yeah, that is true. As an example. Then Patrick says, oh, okay, that is supporting Esther. Jonathan Shiano failed. You know that happens to be my colleague. Oh, before we retired. Why? I would like to know your evidence that my colleague failed. And then we have Esther talk about Sonko. Oh, now you are giving evidence. He did not lead from the front. He had nothing to show for his leadership on exit. He was liked, but did not deliver. Okay. Fidel talks about Peter Degwa. Oh, before he left EABL. Any evidence? Patrick talks about very successful and brilliant Jose OK Kili. Where? What is the evidence? Michael Joseph. Today at KQ, the measure shows differently. So you don't know whether he was successful or a failure. I can see your problem. Patrick, very successful. All board members of the CPF and its subsidiaries, including the ones present in this great job, guys. Evidence? Patrick, you need to give us evidence. Oh, evidence is you have chosen them. No, that's not good evidence. You need to tell us evidence. You know, what we are trying to learn is what makes somebody be called a great leader. That's why the why question is the more important question. Or what makes somebody be regarded as a failure? Anybody else with a comment or a question? Or not, rather with a suggestion? Because by mentioning him, you teach us what to avoid.
Can I support Patrick's answer?
Yes, Esther.
I would also say our MD, Mr. Jose Akili, is a success because he's all the things you have described. He's a risk taker. He sees the bigger picture beyond the basics. He does not focus on the nitty-gritties like the story you have given us about the person cooking the egg. But he sees the bigger picture and allows others with their expertise to do their work at their level. He motivates, encourages us to take those risks and supports us in taking those risks. And that is evidenced by what CPF has achieved in the last 10 years, I would say. I may not know much about before 10 years ago, but in the last 10 years, financially, you can see a difference. In terms of the people that have been raised as leaders within CPF and continue in leadership positions outside CPF, you can also see that. In terms of projects that have been started and completed successfully, you can also see that. So that's in support of Patrick's answer.
Esther, I am more than convinced. Thank you very much. Let's now go on, but most likely I'll be repeating what you have said because you have said very good points as in your contribution. But I want to start by emphasizing that leadership failure is inability to help the team reach the goal effectively and efficiently. I hope you know the difference between being effective and being efficient. Being effective is achieving what you wanted to set out to achieve, being efficient is achieving it at optimum cost. Optimum. I didn't say the minimum. I didn't say the least. I said the optimum. So you can be effective without them being efficient. So we are looking at you are a failure if you don't achieve that. When the high levels of efficiency that allow high task-focused leaders to be so productive often come, unfortunately, sometimes it comes at the expense of more people-based focus. So, in the very success of the numbers lies the potential failure of that leader. When you become so task-oriented, effective, efficient, and you are not bombarding the people you are working with, the people who are working for you, my friend, you'll be surprised at what happens. You'll just see one person or the other resigning. Within no time, all the people who are in your succession plan are not there, and the organization will be on its knees. So we will regard you as a failed leader, and yet the data in history was the kind of data Esther was giving us. So, if you want to be a failed leader, which is our discussion today, let the staff lose trust in you. Promise that you will give bonus at the end of the year, then fail to give that bonus. Promise that you are going to use PMS, performance management system, then promote people whom the PMS never gave as evidence. You are using other evidence. No, that girl is good. Don't worry about the PMS. That's the way to prepare yourself for failure, because people will not trust you. If you want to fail, lose teamwork. If you expect our employees to respect and follow us, we must imbue a certain spirit of collaboration within our department. So when you start operating with your kitchen cabinet and some other people feel left out, my friend, you are preparing yourself for failure, because you are destroying teamwork. And only everybody in the team is there to contribute. If you pick 3 and you're a team of 10, the team will not win. But the worst of all things is favoritism. Whether you call it racism, or nepotism, or tribalism, or genderism. No, genderism is where you are a woman CEO, then everybody being promoted is a woman. It sounds like unless you're a woman, you have no hope in this organization. And they are not using the performance management system. It's simply that the gender you happen to be in. You know what happens in the process. Your staff will know that you cannot fire them because they know that you have a soft heart for them. That's how you create impunity. People would be indisciplined, do wrong things. They know even if I report them to the boss, nothing much will happen. It will just be a slap of the hand. Nothing serious will happen. That is, as a leader, if you allow that in your team, you are preparing for failure. When the leaders forget that they are there to support their team and think they are there to gain, they become power hungry and seek control instead of giving advice, instead of mentoring, instead of ensuring that the team benefits from their leadership. They are seeking to control the team. There will be trouble. When these people will fail when they get arrival mentality. Ever heard of arrival mentality? Wow. In my village, who has ever become a departmental manager of a financial institution like ours? Surely, nobody has ever reached my level. The moment you no longer are hungry to rise higher, you are likely to settle. And it will be difficult for you to put the extra mile. Not when there's nothing to motivate you. People who are great leaders never get satisfied with one position. And that's why you don't fear them. Even if they get promoted, you know they'll not stay in the organization forever. 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they feel they have done their contribution, they'll be looking at even going outside to another organization in order to rise. They have a desire to go and they do their very best. They are not looking at they don't have godfathers, don't rely on godfathers. They work. So arrival mentality is the enemy of greatness in leadership. Leaders have to set expectations, high expectations, then keep track of the whole team and its progress, and then hold themselves and hold others accountable to achieve whatever the PMS says they should be achieving. My friend, if you think you are the very best chef, so you are the hotel manager and you want to make eggs, there is certainly going to be possibility of failure. You must learn to delegate. And the challenge of delegation is that you are taking a risk for things not to be done as well as you would have done them yourself. But if you insist on doing them, since you have other jobs you are supposed to be doing, what will happen if you do them, your real job as a manager will never get done. You are looking after 4 departments. You are spending all your time with one department. The other department will be demotivated. When you fail to delegate, my friend, you are planning to fail. When leaders start to do the work that they should be passing down to the employees, they end up hurting themselves. They become stressed out because they are overloaded with work, and the employees get bored because they want to go and leave. They have nothing to do. Do I matter in this organization? And you know, failing to get staff or customer buy-in, in other words, you just say, do that. Why? I said so. That's the way to prepare for failure. If you ignore what other people say or are saying, it's going to make your job harder because people may oppose it and you might be left stranded without any followers. All this, I'm emphasizing the issue of inability to reach for the team to reach its goal effectively and efficiently. But let me now go through Napoleon's list of items in a study that contributed to the failure of the organization, and therefore the leader was called a failure. The first item given on this survey was self-confidence. Be knowledgeable about your work. If you lack self-confidence, you act as insecure. Have you ever reported to an insecure boss? It doesn't matter what you do, he is always suspicious of you. So there's a lot of waste of time because of suspicion. So you need a self-confidence that you came to this job appropriately. The board trusted you to be in that job. That sense of security is what will make you be able to work well with others. The other thing you need is self-control. If you lack self-control, you will not remain calm under pressure. You actually will lack what we call EI, emotional intelligence, and that's a topic for a whole day. So I will not enter into it. But people without emotional intelligence become failures. Quickly, what is emotional intelligence? Ability to manage your emotions and manage the emotions of those you are with. That means somebody can insult you, but because you understand they were don't know themselves, they were acting on an emotion, you smile, you don't react. You are managing your emotions because you understand the emotion of the other person. So you don't end up in a fight always, because there are things you don't fight about, because you are in control not only of your emotions, you are able to learn how to manage the emotions of others or how to understand those emotions. Lack of this self-control and emotional intelligence will create havoc in the team, and the team will not achieve. Another in this list of Napoleon is sense of justice, fairness, and respect for others. I think I've said enough for you to understand that the team can only work well when they sense that you are just, you are fair, and you actually respect them. They are your subordinates, but you respect them. Then, of course, I have kept talking about, when I was talking about what you need in order to succeed, it's also the same one you miss in order to fail. You are not decisive and a clear stand as you make decisions. There will be trouble. If you lack organization and planning skills, you also will be high, because planning skills are skills in order to make your vision into something workable. Organizational skills are division of labor, knowing who you put where. If you are lacking that, then chances are you will not go very far in your leadership, and it's going to be trouble. You need strong work ethic. People who fail don't have a work ethic. They're always looking for how to rest. But if people who fail also lack neatness and hygiene, and they also lack empathy, they have no understanding on why people do what they do. They cannot put themselves in the shoes. One of my bosses, the first Africans to be managers in Shell, was not my generation, was the earlier generation. The people who left university in 1960s. Tells me about working for a white man who was a sales rep around Kericho. And his wife, he had just married, and the wife was going to have a baby. So he was saying, no, I need to drive to Nairobi. My wife is having a baby. The white man told him, wait a minute. Did we employ your wife or you? What has the wife getting a baby to do with the shell? Obviously, he told me that story. He ended up to become our CEO. But he told me that story, I think, severally. He never forgot it. You need to understand that if you have no empathy, people will not follow you. They think you are there you don't care about what they are going through. And caring does not mean you mess the organization in order to please the people. But it's explaining to them why you cannot give them leave at this time in such a way that they can see why they cannot get leave. Empathy will be very, very important. And lack of it will make you a failed leader. The other problem we have as leaders is lack of mastery of details. We like talking up a Jew. We don't understand. And you see, you don't have to be the one with the whole picture. Sit down and listen to your subordinates. You know what your subordinates are doing. You should have an idea about what it is they are going through. Otherwise, how will you empathize with them when you don't want to know details? I just want to see results. I don't want to know details. Within no time, people will be discouraged, demotivated. Do you have true accountability in deeds as well as in word? If you can do anything, you expect all of us to be accountable, but you as our leader can do anything, anytime, anyhow, my friend will soon copy you. People don't do what you tell them to do. They do what you do. Habits are caught, not taught. And you are teaching simply by how you live your life. You must be accountable. Do you have the ability to achieve through others? There are people who are great achievers on their own, but they don't know how to achieve through others. You will not become a high performer. You will fail in your work as a leader. Whereas, as long as you remain junior, you would have achieved. But the moment you are promoted to look after other people, and you don't know how to work through your subordinates, you'll be a failure. You will be a failure. But of course, there are some of these issues that bring you to failure are pathological personality traits. Sometimes there is extremely fine line between confidence and arrogance. Likewise, healthy insecurity can sometimes border on paranoia. And there are people like that, and they are leaders. Because they were competent, they were promoted to the top. But now they are pathological, they have pathological personality that's keeping them unable to work with others. But another thing that people have is some people are wonderful visionaries, wonderful planners, but they are not good at execution. And you know something? It doesn't matter how well you are in planning. For anything to be called an achievement, there must be execution. Expectation of pay for what they know. You know, that some of these people, they want to be paid for what they know instead of what they do with what they know. I hope you get the joke in it. You know, but they were promoted because they had a PhD, or they were promoted because they had an MBA. But in terms of delivery day to day, they can't deliver. But they say you can't demote me. I'm senior. Don't you know I have better qualifications than so and so? My friend, if you are so tied up with your competencies or the things, the degrees and certificates you have, and not actually doing what needs to be done, there will be a problem. The world does not pay men for what, or women for what they know. It pays them for what they do, or what they are able to induce their team to do. So execution, or lack of it, will make you end up in failing. Why do leaders fail? Lack of execution. Talking, but no action. And of course, I have referred to the issue of being insecure. Napoleon Hill states that the leader who fears that one of his followers may take his position is practically sure to realize that fear sooner or later. That insecurity will make you unable to perform. So the board will finally remove you and put somebody, the same one whom you are fearing will take your job. So you need to be sure that what you are doing, you are qualified to do it. Another thing that will make you end up as a failure is not being proactive, and I'll not spend a lot of time in it. But as a leader, if you don't have imagination, you are incapable of meeting emergencies, and or creating plans by which to guide your followers efficiently, my friend, that lack of proactivity will lead the whole team to fail. But one of the worst things, and we don't talk much about it, is disorderly private life. People keep asking you, my private life is private. Why are you getting into it? Let me tell you something. You cannot be a mess in your private life and assume. Are you aware that the girl whom you have kept as a concubine is a cousin of the aunt of your workmate? The information leaks. Within no time, they will be talking about you, and you are their leader. A disorderly private life will bring you to nothing. Napoleon calls it intemperance or overindulgence in any pleasure, becoming addicted to pleasure. That could be food, drink, drugs, gambling, or even some people are actually addicted to sex. Napoleon Hill believes that followers do not respect an intemperate leader. So if that's what you are in your private life, and I know you are trying to keep it out of your organization, but a sin makes you lose respect. The moment you lose respect, you can only operate as a manager, not as a leader. The other thing that could bring you trouble is if the board senses lack of loyalty. You don't have loyalty to the organization's leadership. The leader who is not loyal to his trust and to his associates, those above him and those below him, cannot long maintain his leadership. He will soon fail. And that will be something you need to understand. I hope we have a few minutes to do the next exercise. Again, I want to learn from you. Give an example of an organization you regard as successful and what role leadership has played in it. Or give an example of an organization you regard as failed. Because the last percent, I just want to talk, leaders failing means organization failing. Give us an example. What role did the leaders play in its success or in its failure? Patrick, you are the one who wanted me to give an example. It's your chance now to give an example. Is Patrick still with us?
Yeah, I'm still around.
Hey, Gatere, just tell us, you an organization that has failed, and what role the leader played in getting it to fail.
None comes to mind at the moment. But I think one of the bigger case studies would be organizations like Kodak, Nokia, such organizations where it was more of, like the Enrons of the world, where the organization failed, similarly to Ochu.
You know, Enron failed because of leadership, isn't it?
Yeah, it did.
And what was the leadership failure? What skill did the leaders fail in, and therefore the whole organization failed?
A lack of accountability.
Good.
Bending the rules.
Yeah, then I think you are thinking quickly. You finally came up with a very good example. When a leader fails, one of the biggest organizations in the whole world ended up collapsing. But it started with the leader's failure, with the CEO's failure. And he hoped he can maintain it at the cover, the wraps, but it didn't work. That's a very good example, Patrick. Anybody else with another example? Who has not talked throughout the day?
I don't know. Maybe you can give your comment on this one. The role of other organizations as part of failure to organization A. Let's say organization B works with A very well, but then again, when organization A fails, organization B sort of distance itself. I don't know if you have any comments or something you can share along those lines.
I'm sure, Patrick, you have an example, but you are trying to be careful. That is true. That's why any supplier CFC have, any supplier, you must understand it. In procurement, it's called studying the market. Do not go to the lowest be the tenderer unless you understand where they come from. If they have stolen the materials, you will end up in it, and people will not tell that you are not the one sponsoring them in their theft. And by the time they come down, they'll go down with you. So it is true that your association can cause you to end up failed. And yet, that is still a leadership failure, because the leader is the one who opted to procure things, critical things, from a wrong person. Because he was a thief, he was stopped. And now you did not even have anybody else who could supply those materials. And your organization is grounded to a halt. Because procurement were just tender managers. They did not study the procurement market. I cover this in my book, Integrity, the Litmus Test of Good Leadership. I look at procurement leadership in procurement, and how lack of integrity can bring the whole organization down. So, Patrick, you are right. Who you associate with can bring you down as he comes down himself. And your choice or who you relate with is a leadership failure. So you also have failed as a leader. I think there are some things on the writing. Let me try to read before we finish. Oh, Shiano was a supplier. And Ndegwa sold a lot of beer. And then okay, self-confidence, Guya, fine line between confidence and arrogance, yeah? Failure. Okay, here is a very good example from Mike. Imperial Bank of Kenya had bad business practices by maintaining two core banking systems. Of course, the leaders must have opted for that, and they ended up down. A good example from Mike on Success Equity Bank. The leadership came from the poor and banked population and created a model that pushes for financial inclusion and dignity for the low-income earners. I think what you are saying is it had a vision that other banks did not see. They went for people that the other bank ignored, and that is what created them to now become one of the biggest bank in this region. That's a good example. What role did the leaders play? I think whoever Mwangi is and his chairman played a big role in what they saw and carried the rest of the team with them. Anyway, we have to finish. Common mistakes that of business leaders: managing badly, taking people without experience. You just put people from the university direct. I used to work in the Shell regional office where I was looking after 10 countries, from Madagascar, this region, to Djibouti. Those years when I was in the regional office, in the international office, I still remember going to Djibouti, and one of our clients was railways. We used to supply them, and they used to carry our goods. And I was told the problem of the Djibouti Ethiopia railways is parachute. I never heard the word. What are parachute? Since this is a political thing, they just get a guy from anywhere. He may be an ambassador. Then he lands on top of this big railway organization, but he knows nothing about it, and he's the one now ordering and insisting. Within no time, that collapse. Then he disappears. Then another parachute. I never heard the word. So that a leadership that does not look at competence and experience will certainly bring the whole organization down. A leadership with the poor financial control, that's what Kenya is being accused of currently, where you can take any loan without assessing what the risk is and whether if the risk actually happened, because the risk may not happen. It's just a danger that has not yet happened. If it happened, can the organization survive? Although we are talking about being a risk taker, there are risks that would be foolish to take. How is your financial control? What about a leader who does not give a lot of effort to marketing? The whole organization may be well managed, financial controls, but without customers, where will the organization go? Or a leader who doesn't care about strategic planning. And when the strategic plans are done, they are done and then put in a shelf. Then we run the way we are. It was just a paper to please tick the box. We have a strategic plan. We don't review it regularly and see how well we are keeping to the direction we agreed. What about allowing uncontrolled growth? When Equity started, many other banks started, and they were growing by leaps and bounds. I still remember one being led by a friend of mine. Within 5 years, it was bankrupt. Uncontrolled growth, just because there are more and more customers. There are times you say, sorry, let's not go there yet. Why? We'll get a customer, but we will not be able to supply him. We can't service him. Uncontrolled growth is a way of bringing down the whole organization. So any leader who just wants growth, and does not want to check, can I manage this growth? There will be possibility of him and the organization going down. But also you can have simple things about being located in the wrong place. Oh, but it's near my area. I don't want us to move. Or poor, improper inventory control. There are people who don't manage their stock, so customers run out of items because stock management is a problem. Or even incorrect pricing, either pricing too low or too high. A leader who doesn't know how to appraise will bring himself and his organization down. Inability to make the entrepreneurial possession. So, as I finish, signs of organizational failure can start right after the board. Wrong board mix. You have all people with one qualification, one competence. They don't have other competence. So they tend to pull the organization to the wrong direction. But then it's not the board. Sometimes it's inept management. Or could be a problem with financial mismanagement. Or, we talked about growth earlier, or loss of market, where like Kodak, it's not that customers are running away. A new technology has come that replaces yours. Over leverage, misusing assets, even systems failure. Sorry, our time is up. But I hope I've said. So can we allow one or two questions, although I know our time is up? Jane, you decide that.
Yeah, sure. Any person with a question that Mr. Nganga can take before we close our session? Guys, Mr. Nganga has gone through a lot of pitfalls that managers come across. I'm sure some of them may sound familiar. Some we have seen leaders go through them. So shoot any question that you have in mind that you'd like him to tackle before we let him go.
I think, Jane, they are hungry.
Joshua, any questions? Save the situation here.
Or comment.
Thank you, Dr. From my end, I think this session has been very, very informative. Derek, from hands-on experience from the many years in management, and I think the team here really appreciates what we have heard from we call him Elder John Nganga. He will know which church I'm coming from. Yeah, so it's very, very interesting to hear what he's gone through and what he has been able to share with us. So